The crunch didn't come all at once. It cracked in stages, like bones under strain. First the shudder of metal against bark, then the popping of a side mirror, then silence. A silence thicker than the Tennessee air in July. I was still holding the coffee pot when Jenna's voice cut through it. "Cam, I think you need to see this." I didn't even set the pot down. I left a trail of dark drip marks from the kitchenette to the front window of the house. Our house. Our camper. And right there, at the edge of the gravel turnaround, half buried in the shallow ditch by the mailbox, was what used to be my 2016 Jayco Greyhawk. The passenger side looked like someone had keyed it with a redwood. Glass sparkled in the sunlight like sugar. And standing there, one hand on his hip, the other on his phone, like this was an inconvenience instead of a disaster, was Ryan, my brother-in-law, my wife's little brother. He didn't look surprised, or sorry, just mildly annoyed, like he'd been asked to pick up a bag of mulch and it was out of stock. The story really starts 3 days earlier, though. It was Friday morning, and the kitchen smelled like burnt toast and drywall dust. We were halfway through redoing the trim in the guest room, and our mornings were scattered. Jenna had left early for a PT appointment, and I was still trying to scrape off the last of the old caulk when Ryan's beat-up Ford Focus pulled into the driveway. He didn't knock. He never knocked. "Yo!" he shouted through the screen door. "Cam, you got a socket wrench I can borrow?" I wiped my hands on a rag and came out to the porch. Ryan was already halfway into our garage like it belonged to him, which, to be fair, was kind of his thing. Ever since his divorce, he'd been showing up more often. Jenna said he just needed support, that he was trying to get back on his feet. But support, in Ryan's case, usually meant sweat equity from me and freezer meals from Jenna. "Need it for the Focus?" I asked, grabbing my toolbox off the bench. Nah, it's for a buddy's trailer hitch. He's picking up a boat this weekend." He scratched the back of his neck. "Speaking of which, man, that camper of yours, it's just sitting out back, huh?" I stiffened. "Yeah, stays parked during the summer. Heat makes the seals warp if you use it too much. Why?" Ryan made a show of kicking at the gravel. "I mean, damn, man, it's beautiful. I always wanted to try one of those weekends out on the lake, you know? Just some peace and quiet. Get my head straight. Ain't got a place to go since me and Kelsey split." I didn't say anything. Then came the pivot. Not asking to take it or anything, just saying, must be nice to have options. It wasn't subtle, but Ryan wasn't really the subtle type. I'd learned over the years that if you didn't give him a firm no, he'd treat it like a yes, or at least a maybe, and then he'd start moving things around like it was already decided. So I looked him straight in the face and said, "It's not available, Ryan. The engine needs servicing and the gray water tank's leaking again." His mouth twisted a little like I had pulled a dirty trick on him. "Ah, okay. Yeah, sure." He took the wrench and left. I didn't think much of it after that. That night, I even mentioned it to Jenna while we were loading dishes. "He asked to borrow the camper?" More like hinted at it. I shut it down. She wiped her hands and leaned against the counter. "Cam, he's just trying to feel normal again. You know how hard it was for him, losing the house, the custody stuff?" "Yeah, but it's not my job to fix his life by handing him the keys to a 30 grand piece of machinery." I said no. He can rent something if he wants the experience. She didn't argue. Not then. So when I saw him standing there 3 days later, in front of a crashed Jayco, he had no permission to drive, my first thought wasn't what happened. It was, how the hell did he get the keys? "Ryan!" I barked, marching toward him. "What did you do?" He turned like I'd caught him in the middle of tying his shoes, not wrecking a mobile home. "Cam, relax." "Don't tell me to relax." "I was just gonna take it around the block." I held up a hand, shaking. "You broke into my garage. You took my vehicle. You wrecked it. This isn't a favor gone wrong. This is grand theft."
Jenna had come out onto the porch now, arms crossed tight over her chest. Her face was somewhere between shock and shame. "Cam," she started, but I didn't look at her. Ryan shrugged. "You always said it needed to stretch its legs." That's when I lost it. I don't mean yelling. I didn't scream or punch him or throw anything. I just stared. Because something inside me went cold in a way it hadn't in a long time. A kind of locked door silence, like part of me just shut off to keep the rest from short-circuiting. "You're going to tell me," I said, voice low, "exactly how you got the keys." Ryan blinked. "Jenna gave them to me." My wife stiffened. "I did not." He turned to her like she'd dropped the ball in an improv skit. "You said I could borrow it last summer. You told me it was fine as long as I filled the tank." "I never—" Her voice faltered. I turned to her slowly. "Jenna?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. That was when I realized. She hadn't said yes this time, but she might have said yes once, as a throwaway, maybe last year, maybe during one of those nights when she was trying to cheer him up. "You should take the camper sometime," or "You'd love that lake road. Someday you should borrow it." And Ryan had taken that wishful someday and retrofitted it into a permission slip. That was his pattern, taking maybe and turning it into already done. And now our camper was in a ditch, side gouged like a tuna can, with insurance that I knew, because I handled it myself, did not cover unlisted drivers. "Do not move," I said. "Do not touch anything. I'm calling the police." "What? Come on, are you serious? You stole it, Ryan." "I didn't steal." "You entered the garage without consent, took keys that weren't yours, operated a vehicle that wasn't yours, damaged property." Jenna stepped forward. "Cam, let's just wait a second, okay? We don't need to—" "You're not the one who bought it, Jenna." That one came out sharper than I intended. She blinked, wounded. I didn't apologize. The officer came 20 minutes later. I had photos already. Damage, entry point on the garage, video from our Ring camera, him fumbling with the spare key I hadn't realized Jenna still kept in the planter box. Ryan tried charm, tried confusion, tried the "we're family" angle. But in the end, they didn't cuff him. They took a report, wrote down everything, asked if I wanted to press charges. I said I needed time to decide. Ryan was told not to leave town. He left anyway, stomped down the street muttering about betrayal and overreacting like always. Jenna stayed quiet. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not because I was punishing her, but because I needed to think. About boundaries, about blind spots, about how this had kept happening. In smaller ways, in forgettable ways, in he means well ways, and about how often I'd let things slide. I didn't know it then, but by Monday, the narrative would start spreading. Not from me, not from Jenna, but from Ryan. And the version that got out? That I'd offered him the camper, that I'd said yes, that I'd turned on him when he scratched it, and that one version, one lie, would end up costing me more than the deductible. The first text came Monday morning, right as I was pulling into the parking lot at the shop. "Heard about the camper. Hope you and Ryan are cool." Matt, one of my co-workers, not even close friends. I sat in my truck with the engine still running and just stared at the screen. Cool wasn't a word I'd use for someone who stole my vehicle and wrecked it. Then the second pinged in. "Wild weekend, huh? Didn't know y'all were so chill with that stuff." And a third. "You actually let him take it?" Ballsy. By lunchtime, I had 7 of them. All some variation of the same thing. Shock, disbelief, but more importantly, all working off the same assumption. That I'd let Ryan borrow the camper. Not just let, offered. I closed my locker door harder than I meant to and marched out back,
where Jake and Steve were smoking by the loading dock. "Okay," I said without preamble. "Who talked to Ryan?" Steve blinked like I'd just accused him of stealing a kidney. Uh, I mean, he came by the hardware counter on Sunday. Said he was in a bit of a bind." "What did he say exactly?" Jake shrugged. "Said you loaned him the camper for the weekend, like a favor, and then flipped out when he scraped a tree trying to turn around." I could feel something slow and sour rising in the back of my throat. "He said I gave him permission?" "Yeah, man," Steve nodded. "Made it sound like a miscommunication, like you offered it last year and forgot." I didn't answer, just turned and walked back inside. The thing about people like Ryan, they don't just bend the truth. They build a scaffolding around it, brick by brick, until it looks stable from the outside. Until it feels easier to believe his version than to question it, especially if the real version makes people uncomfortable. I went home early that day. I didn't give a reason. Didn't have to. Jenna was in the kitchen when I got home, unpacking groceries. She looked up and smiled, then hesitated when she saw my face. "Something happened at work?" I held up my phone. "Ryan's been telling people I let him borrow it." She froze, finger still curled around a bag of spinach. "What?" "He told Steve and Jake I gave him permission, that it was all a miscommunication, that I flipped out for no reason." She sighed and looked away. "Of course he did. You sound surprised, but also not." "I'm not. I didn't think he'd actually go around broadcasting it." "You didn't give him the keys, right?" I asked again, even though I already knew the answer. "No, Cam, I didn't." "But you did say something last summer about him borrowing it, maybe at the lake house, after Kelsey left." She winced. "I might have joked about it. I don't remember specifics, but it wasn't serious. I mean, God, we were drinking, Cam. It wasn't a thing." "Well, it is now. He's using it as ammo." Jenna set the spinach down and rubbed her temples. "I'll call him." "No, don't." She paused. "If you call him," I said, "it still looks like you're in the middle. And he wants that. He thrives when he can say, 'Jenna's cool with it,' and put you in the middle. I need to deal with this directly." "Cam, He's telling people I'm unstable, that I overreacted, that I changed my mind on a favor, and then got him in trouble for it. I'm not letting that slide." She nodded slowly. "Okay." Tuesday morning, I went to the impound yard. The Jayco was still there, still crumpled on the side like a kicked tin can. The side mirror hung like a broken limb, and the paint was smeared with something green. Sap, or maybe Ryan's attempt at cleaning up before anyone noticed. The damage estimate came in at just under $7,000. "Insurance isn't going to like that," the guy said, frowning at the clipboard. "I'm the only listed driver," I said. "No one else is covered." He gave me a look that said, "You're screwed," then patted the side of the camper like it was a horse with a bad leg. "Good luck." I didn't reply, just walked away, phone already buzzing in my pocket. This time it was my Uncle Donnie, just checking in, heard about the camper. "I know family can be messy. Hang in there." That one stung, because Donnie didn't ask what happened. He assumed I'd loaned it, assumed I'd freaked out, assumed there was some version of the story where Ryan wasn't entirely to blame. And to be fair, that's the part that kept digging at me. Not the crash, not the money, the fact that people were defaulting to his version of the truth because it was easier to believe, because I was the responsible one, the uptight one, the don't touch my tools guy. So of course, if I got mad, it must have been over something petty, right? And Ryan, the screw-up, the charming goof, the guy who just needed a break. No one expected more of him, so when he failed, they shrugged. But when I enforced a boundary, suddenly I was the jerk. Wednesday night, I went over to his place. He was living in a basement rental out in Hendersonville, half-finished drywall, and a leaky pipe under the kitchen sink. I knocked, loud. He opened the door, shirtless, holding a beer. The living room TV was playing Top Gear reruns at full blast. "Cam, wow, what's the occasion?" I stepped inside without asking. He flinched slightly but didn't stop me. "I've heard from 10 people since Monday. All of them think I let you take the camper." "Maybe you did," he said, trying for a smile. "Memory's a funny thing." I didn't blink. "You're gonna fix this." "Oh, come on. You broke into my garage, took the keys, wrecked a vehicle you had no legal right to touch, and then you lied about it. And now people think I'm either unstable or vindictive." Ryan took a sip of his beer. "I didn't lie. I just told them my side." "There is no side. There's what happened, and what you're making up." He dropped the smirk then. Just let the silence sit. "You're always like this, man," he said. "So black and white, like people can't change, can't mess up and still be human. You didn't mess up. You chose this. And now you're hiding behind ambiguity because it's easier than owning it." Ryan looked away. "I'm not asking for much," I continued. "You go to the same people you lied to, and you tell them the truth. That you took it without permission. That I said no. That you crossed a line. And if I don't?" I stepped closer. "Then I press charges." Ryan's jaw flexed. "You'd really do that to family?" "You're not acting like family," I said. "You're acting like a con man." That one landed. He didn't say anything after that. I turned and walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't say goodbye. By Friday, the tide started to shift. Steve came by my locker and mumbled something about clearing things up. Said Ryan texted him to say it might have been a miscommunication. Then Jake said Ryan stopped responding altogether. My mom called that night. "I talked to Jenna," she said. "She said you're pressing charges?" "I haven't decided." "Well, don't let this tear the family apart. He's still your brother-in-law." I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Mom, if someone broke into your house, stole your car, and then told everyone you gave them the keys, would you call that family drama or theft?" She was quiet. Then, softly, "I see your point." What I didn't know then was that Ryan had already started the next phase of damage control. He wasn't just walking back the story. He was planting new ones. Versions where I'd changed, where the stress had gotten to me, where the old Cam would have laughed it off, where Jenna was caught in the middle of a control-freak husband and a misunderstood brother. And the worst part? Some of those stories were starting to sound plausible, even to Jenna. It was a week after the crash when Jenna asked if we could talk. Not the light kind, not the kind you toss over breakfast about whether we need more laundry pods. The heavy kind. The kind where someone stares at their coffee for too long and doesn't take a sip. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, twisting her wedding ring around her finger, like it was a loose screw she could maybe unfasten if she tried hard enough. "I've been thinking," she said, "about everything." I didn't sit. I just stood at the counter, arms folded, the sound of the fridge hum suddenly the only thing in the room. "Okay." She took a breath. "I feel like I'm in the middle of a fight that I never meant to be in." I didn't answer. "Cam, he's my brother, and I'm your husband. I know that," she said quickly. "And I'm not saying he didn't screw up. He did. But the way this has spiraled—" "You mean the way he spiraled it?" She looked down. "It's just, he said you threatened to press charges." "I did. Cam, I didn't file yet. I'm still waiting for the insurance ruling. But yeah, I told him the truth. If he doesn't fix the story he spread, I'll make it official." Her voice was quiet now. "And that's the only option?" I didn't like the way she said option.
like this was a political disagreement, not a theft. He lied, Jenna. He broke in. He took the camper. He crashed it. And then he told everyone I gave him the green light. I know. Do you? She didn't answer right away. He's scared, Cam. He's embarrassed. He doesn't know how to fix it without losing what little reputation he has left. I'm
Finally sat. He doesn't get to burn my house down just to warm his hands. That silenced her. She nodded, slow, sad, like something had been decided, but she didn't want to admit it. The insurance adjuster came out that Thursday, walked the perimeter of the Jayco like he was sizing up a dying animal. Passenger side's wrecked. Axle looks bent. You say you weren't driving? I handed him the police report. Wasn't me. Wasn't authorized either. He made a tight face. That'll complicate things. No coverage? Well, depends. We have to determine if there was any implied consent, if the driver was an immediate family member, and if you'd lent it in the past. I didn't. But if he says you did, my stomach dropped. We'll be in touch, he said, clipboard snapping shut. I called Jenna on the way home. You need to text him. Cam, text him. Ask him to put in writing that he took it without permission. Why would he ever say that? Because if he doesn't, insurance might deny the claim. We'll be on the hook for everything. There was a long pause. I'll try, she said, but I don't think he'll go for it. He didn't. She showed me the text thread the next day. Jenna, can you just clarify for insurance that you didn't have permission? Ryan, are you serious right now? Ryan, you really think Cam's going to let this go if I put that in writing? Ryan, not a chance. He's already painting me like a thief. Jenna, Ryan, you know what happened. Just be honest. Ryan, I didn't steal it. I just misunderstood. And now he wants blood. Ryan, I'm not signing anything that helps him screw me over. I closed the phone and pushed it back to her. She didn't say anything. Neither did I, because now it wasn't just personal. Now it was legal. That weekend, my niece's birthday party was scheduled. Ryan's daughter from his ex, Kelsey. We'd already RSVP'd. Jenna had picked out a gift. I figured we'd cancel. But Jenna didn't. You're not seriously going, I said that Saturday morning. I can't just not show up. Why not? She's my niece. She's his daughter. And you're going to go stand in his backyard like everything's fine? No, she said. I'm going because she's 6, and she didn't do anything wrong. I didn't go. She did. And when she came back, she had a look on her face I hadn't seen in a while. Something like wounded resolve. He's telling people you're threatening to bankrupt him out of spite. I stared. And that I'm the only reason he's not already in jail. I didn't say anything. He said it in front of Kelsey, in front of her parents. Was anyone buying it? Hard to tell. Everyone was being polite. Polite, I said flatly. Right. That was the day I called a lawyer. His name was Tom Rivers, a local guy, not cheap, not flashy, just the kind of man who wore worn leather shoes and used phrases like, "We'll draw a clean line here." I told him everything. He listened without interruption. When I finished, he flipped open a yellow legal pad and said, "Well, we have a few options, but if you want a recommendation." I nodded. File a civil claim. Don't go criminal. It keeps things quieter. But put it in writing. Make him answer for the damages. If he doesn't respond, we can push further. And the insurance? We notify them that a legal claim is pending. It buys us time. Stops them from closing the case too early. And Jenna? I asked quietly. Tom looked at me. That's between you two. But if you let this slide, what message does it send? I didn't serve Ryan that week. I waited. Because I needed to be sure Jenna understood. We were eating dinner Tuesday night. Neither of us had said much. The chicken was dry, and we were both chewing like it was our job.
Finally, I set my fork down. Do you think I'm being cruel? Jenna looked up. No. Do you think I'm blowing this out of proportion? She shook her head. I think you're doing what you feel you need to. That's not a yes, she sighed. Cam, I've known Ryan my whole life. I know how he twists things. I know how he makes messes and then acts like he tripped into them. But I also know he's scared and broke. And when people like that feel cornered, they do stupid things. I'm not the one who put him there. I know. So what do you want from me? She was quiet a long time. Then she said, I want to not feel like I'm choosing. I looked at her for a long time. You already are. She didn't deny it.
Thursday morning, Tom filed the paperwork. Civil claim. $6,892 in damages. Vehicle misuse. Trespass. We mailed it certified. Jenna didn't stop me. She also didn't speak to me that night. The next ripple came Sunday. A Facebook post. Not from Ryan, from his ex-wife, Kelsey. It was vague. Only a paragraph. But it started with, some people only want to be victims when they don't get their way. If you steal something, crash it, lie about it, and then blame everyone else, you're not the hero. You're not the underdog. You're just toxic. The comments were turned off, but the message was clear. Someone was done covering for him. And this time, it wasn't just me. Kelsey's post hit harder than I expected. Not just because it came from her, but because it did what I hadn't been able to do, expose the pattern. She didn't name names. She didn't have to. People started connecting dots fast. By Monday, a mutual friend of ours, Andy, who knew both Ryan and me through high school softball, reached out. Hey, man, I didn't realize how far this had gone. I should have asked you first. Then came Beth, one of Jenna's old college roommates who lived in Murfreesboro now. I'm sorry I believed him. That's on me. The truth's coming out, though. Don't worry. Truth. That word had been sitting on the back of my tongue for weeks, bitter and dry. Jenna saw the shift, too. By Tuesday night, she was quieter, more present, less defensive. She sat next to me on the couch instead of across the room. She watched the news with her legs tucked close, like she used to before things got complicated. I noticed her phone light up once during a commercial break. I didn't ask, but she turned its screen down and didn't reply. That told me more than anything else. Ryan didn't respond to the lawsuit. Not at first. According to Tom, he had 20 business days to file a formal reply. If he didn't, we'd move forward with a default judgment. But on day 13, something unexpected happened. He showed up at our door. Not pounding, not shouting, just knocked. Twice. Softly. I opened it and stared at him through the screen. He looked like hell. Thin, greasy hair, dark under the eyes. I didn't say anything. He cleared his throat. Hey. Still nothing. He shifted from foot to foot. I saw the papers. I let the silence sit. I guess I deserve that. I leaned against the frame. Guess? Okay. I deserved it. He scratched his neck. Look, I just wanted to say, Boom, I didn't mean for it to go this far. You crashed a $30,000 vehicle and lied about it. You meant for it to not be your fault. That's what you meant. He winced. Fair. Why are you here, Ryan? He looked past me toward the hallway. Is Jenna home? She's not your mediator anymore. That one hit. He looked down. I don't know how to fix it. You start by telling the truth. On record, not just to me, to the people you lied to the insurance, to the court.
He nodded. Okay, yeah. I'll talk to the adjuster. I'll I'll write a statement. And you stop using Jenna as your go-between. He nodded again. Then softly, can I at least say sorry? You can say it, I said, but I'm not ready to accept it. He blinked, hurt maybe, but he nodded. I get that. I closed the door before he could say anything else. The next day, Tom got an email from Ryan's newly hired lawyer. It wasn't a full admission, but it was something. A statement of regret, acknowledging unauthorized use of the vehicle, and a willingness to negotiate a repayment plan if charges were dropped. The phrasing was careful, but the meaning was clear. He was folding. Insurance reopened the case with the new statement. Adjuster called me personally. We'll move forward with partial coverage. It won't cover everything, but it's a hell of a lot better than where we were. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. Appreciate it. That weekend, Jenna and I drove out to the lake. Not in the camper, obviously. That thing was still in a yard waiting for repairs, but in her Subaru. No music, no phone calls, just the road and the churn of old conversations neither of us wanted to have, but both knew we had to. We stopped near a public dock. I watched a couple of kids throw rocks at a buoy while she sat on the hood beside me. You were right, she said. I glanced over. About what? About what happens when people don't get held accountable. I didn't say anything. I wanted so badly for him to get better, to be the version of himself I remembered when we were kids. But he's not that guy anymore. I nodded. And I let him drag you into it. No, I said. He dragged himself. But I stood there. I let him shape the narrative. I didn't shut it down when I should have. We sat in silence a long time. Then I said, do you think he'll learn from this? She shook her head. I think he'll adjust, but I don't think he'll change, not unless it starts to cost him more. I looked out at the lake, water soft with late spring sun, kids laughing in the distance, a breeze that smelled like cut grass and charcoal. Then it had better cost him. The repayment plan took months, small checks, uneven, sometimes skipped. But he paid something. The camper got repaired. Not perfect, but drivable. I took it out in October. Just me. Jenna didn't come. We weren't separated. Not exactly. But something between us had shifted. Not from the crash, from the realization that some loyalties, if not checked, become liabilities. She visited him less, stopped texting back immediately, started answering with, I'll have to ask Cam, when he asked for favors. It wasn't revenge, it was boundaries. I saw Ryan one more time in person. Grocery store, aisle 3, frozen foods. He spotted me before I saw him. Nodded once, I nodded back. That was it. No apology, no blow-up. Just two men in front of a wall of pizza rolls pretending everything had been handled. Maybe it had. Maybe not. But at least this time, I knew the story being told was mine. It took another 6 months for everything to settle. I don't mean the money. Ryan was still on a slow, inconsistent payment schedule, and I knew I'd never see the full amount. But the social dust, the tension between families, the quiet recalibrations of who believed what and why, that took longer. I learned who had given him the benefit of the doubt. I learned who had assumed I was the overreactor. I also learned who quietly reached out later, once the truth became harder to ignore. Some apologized. Most didn't. And I didn't chase them for it. By then, I'd stopped needing to be vindicated. What I needed, what I'd really needed from the beginning, was to stop feeling like I had to defend the very idea that a boundary could exist, that saying no wasn't cruelty, that holding someone accountable wasn't revenge,
That trust wasn't a casual loan you handed out at family barbecues just because someone shared your last name or married your sister. One night in late November, I walked out to the camper. It had been repaired, cleaned up, even upgraded a little. New window seals, a fresh coat on the rear bumper, tires rotated and aligned. It was colder than it should have been that early in the season. The kind of brittle Tennessee chill that settled in your joints. I turned on the little electric heater inside, sat on the bench by the fold-down table, and just listened to the creaks of the frame settling. Jenna joined me 20 minutes later, wearing a fleece pullover and carrying 2 mugs. "I thought you hated this thing," I said, nodding toward the cup she set down for me. "I don't hate it," she said. "I hate what it turned into, what it made us see." She sat opposite me. "I've been thinking," she said. That was her tell, the phrase she always used when something real was about to follow. "I know you've been patient. With me. With all of this. More patient than I had any right to expect." I took a sip. It was chamomile. She wasn't here to argue. "I let Ryan rewrite the narrative too many times," she said. "I made excuses for him because it was easier than facing what it said about me, about how I'd let him keep doing it." "You loved him," I said. "That's not a crime." "No," she said, "but looking the other way was." We didn't talk about forgiveness that night. Not directly, but when she reached across the table and laced her fingers through mine, I didn't pull away. And when she rested her forehead on our joined hands and exhaled, I felt something release between us. Something neither of us had named yet, but we both recognized it. The last time I saw Ryan was during a family cookout in spring. Not ours, his daughter's school fundraiser. He was on the other end of the field, near the dunk tank, wearing a faded baseball cap, laughing too loud. He saw me, raised a hand halfway. I raised mine halfway back. That was it. No wave, no approach, just mutual acknowledgement across a space filled with kids and hot dogs and folding chairs. He never brought up the camper again. He finished his repayment plan the following August. The final check came with a memo line that just said, "Debt closed." Not "I'm sorry," not "thanks." Just a business transaction wrapped in a thin layer of civility. And that, I think, was the most honest version of him I'd ever seen. We still use the camper. Jenna and I took it to Lake Ocoee in September. Parked by the ridge, watched the fog roll over the trees each morning like steam off a cup. Sometimes we talk about what happened. Sometimes we don't. But I never locked the garage again. I just took the spare key from the planter box and moved it inside. Because I'm not living in fear of another Ryan. I'm just making sure the next line stays clear. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.